The next 19 days in our cryptocurrency journey might be the most important for this bull run, and I'm going to explain to you why in just a moment. But before I do, I've got to tell you, I know, I watch YouTube as well. How many titles out there have watched this video in the next 5 hours, 3 hours, 2 days, 3 weeks before you miss out? Those sort of videos, very much clickbait. I understand you might be a bit hesitant to read this title and think something significant is about to happen, but I'm going to tell you right now, it is worth looking at because this is completely true. Now, I want you to stay tuned to the very end of the video as well, because I'm going to be including something that I don't typically do in my YouTube videos because I've charged people for this in the past. At the exact moment you learn something new in this video, I would really appreciate if you went down there and dropped a big like on the video. It really does support all my work, but importantly, of course, I want you to subscribe right now so you can achieve your crypto goals. Now, I'm going to come out here right now and tell you this isn't going to be the sexiest topic you've heard of today, but I know this is something everyone is panicking about right now, and yes, I'm going to put a time sensitivity on this because I'll show you here in a second with some charts that we might have a position or time in this cycle that ends a lot sooner than what most people are suspecting. The 4-year Bitcoin cycle, 2-year bull, 2-year bear, that isn't likely going to continue for too much longer. Matter of fact, it might have already ended. So here it is. What I typically charge people for in the past, and I've seen on all my recent YouTube videos, as well as a lot of questions being asked in the private community, it's all got to do with your portfolios, particularly portfolio rebalancing. Essentially, how to make sure you are in the correct position right now to take full advantage of the upcoming bull run. This is important, right? People don't think so. It's not the sexiest topic. I'm not giving you 100 altcoins that are going to 100x, but this is something that, if done correctly, will allow you to achieve your goals. And if not done correctly, it's going to pretty much mean you leave the bull run with less money than you put in. You'll see in a moment, I've got a few charts that will back up a lot of the things I'm saying and why it is so important to rebalance and look at this now. Again, because if we find ourselves pushing up in the next 19, 20, 25 days, which I suspect will be at the max, you're not going to have the same opportunities you can right now to take full advantage of the cycle. We will begin by having a look, generally speaking, at cash to crypto ratios. I think anywhere between 20% in cash to 5% in cash and the rest in crypto is probably around about where you want to be. Now, all of this is non-financial advice, mind you, so don't take what I say as the be-all and end-all. Just take it with a grain of salt. And if you look at what I'm chasing myself, I'm right now this is my portfolio, by the way, I've got 3.37 in cash. I'm actually even under the very, very minimum you should be in cash, but I'm working this back up to be 10% in cash or thereabouts. I've done that because I overloaded a lot into crypto. For the exact sake, I'm making this video for you. It was to allow me to be exposed to what I believe would be these prices. And if we do go any lower from where we are right now, if Bitcoin falls down to 55,000 or 50,000 and then comes back up for that final push, I'm not concerned because I've already got my positions in the market where I know I'll achieve my goals. And with this accumulation of cash over the next couple of weeks, ideally speaking, I can take at least somewhat advantage of those dips. So I think whether you're someone who, is a real bull or bear, what we all pretty much agree on at this point in time is that Bitcoin is basically primed to hit $100,000 to $150,000. You could always say, non-financially speaking, it will happen. Not if, it's a definite will, I think. So in that case, altcoins are going to fly. Bitcoin is going to fly. From where we are right now, things will 10, 15, 20, 25 plus X. And I think a lot of people who are new to the space can't perceive this happening. I think we're at a perfect time for us to zoom out. If we're in doubt, zoom out. We actually find ourselves in the exact position we've been in many, many times before at the point of the halving. Every single time on the halving, we find ourselves well and truly into this dark blue line. I can pull up a million charts and kind of prove to you or convince you a little bit more as to why I think the prices will go up, but I think we all universally, again, agree that this is all primed in. These altcoins are going to do really well. So I guess the question you might be asking yourself at this point is there even a reason to be heavily in cash right now at all? Well, I don't actually think so. Again, I'm trying to achieve 10%, and having that, in my personal opinion, I'll be able to take full advantage of a dip if need be. And again, I think buying right now makes a lot of sense considering you can still achieve your ROI goals. Do not buy at the tops, right? Don't buy if your altcoin's pumped 4 or 5x. and you're like, oh, well, now I can't achieve my rough goal. Why would you buy now? You've missed the chance. Get out of that altcoin, find a new altcoin, okay? Be very strict with that sort of stuff. But you can still buy now, even if we do have a drop, right? If you don't have that extra cash, if you can still achieve your goals. Yeah, it's going to annoy the hell out of you that you can't buy every single altcoin on the dip. But the alternative is you hold more cash right now, hoping we have a dip. We don't have a dip. And then you're pissed off because you're having to put most of your positions in at the top. If you can buy now to achieve your goals, why not? And it's not just that. Another factor you have to consider is being more in cash right now and therefore buying later on in the cycle. What you're essentially saying to yourself is, I'm happy to take on more risk of being taxed, okay? Because the longer you leave it, the more chance you sell within 12 months. You're going to get hit with capital gains tax depending on where you live. This considered, we have to factor in that the cycle might actually end sooner than what people are expecting, with the lengthening and or left translated cycle actually playing out. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because I have pretty much every single video for the last week. But if we have a look and zoom out as to what has occurred over the last, well, ever since Bitcoin's inception, from the moment that we break the all-time high previous to the next all-time high, it's around about anywhere between 280 to give or take 350 days. This was a bit of an outlier over here at 350 days. And from when we touched about 300 or 280 to 300 days-ish, from that point in time would put us again in about December of this year, which obviously means we're selling within those 12 months. So all this is to say that if you do wait the next 19 days, which again would not surprise me at all if we then begin to move up that 100% in the Bitcoin price, altcoins up even more, of course, and then possibly coming down to some 20 or 30% crash, you're still going to be buying at a more expensive price than what you can right now. Plus, you're taking on more risk, especially if these factors come true. And before I continue, I want to say, if you're a bit confused at what capital gains tax is, it's a very big deal, and I would recommend spending a lot of time looking into this. Take this example I've got on one of my courses. You pretty much save yourself like 41% in the situation you're over here in Australia. You're taxed at 45% for every single dollar you make over a certain threshold. But if you sell outside of 12 months, what happens is you safeguard a certain amount of that money you've made, which means that you don't get taxed on the whole entire profit margin. Again, in the example of profiting $1 million with Bitcoin, this person sells one day after 365 days. This person, let's just say, sells at 364 days, right? One day under the 12-month mark. And this person ends up taking home $213,000 more by just simply waiting 2 extra days. Now, to get into the crux of this video, again, we're trying to enable you to be in the best possible position. I think it's pretty obvious. We've weighed up the facts of being in the market right now versus being more out of the market and vice versa. I'm just trying to give you time horizons here to give you some better indication. Again, when in doubt, zoom out. I think it's very obvious that prices are going to move up. If we fall down a bit more, hey, you got some cash to put in the market. If it goes up, all the better. So we're trying now to have a look at kind of pairing a nice combination of altcoins in your portfolio. And the way we do this is having a mixture of wealth preservation and wealth creation. Basically choosing the altcoins that you can afford to get into based on how much you're willing to lose in the market. If I, for example, ask you, Jimmy, how much money are you willing to lose in crypto? What I'm essentially asking you is not how much money you're willing to lose on the big pot of cash you make at the end of the cycle, but how much out of your initial investment, your cost basis, are you willing to lose? If you invest 10 grand and you say, I'm willing to lose 25%, what you're saying is you're happy to leave the bull run with $7,500 in your back pocket. That's a 25% risk. And what that really means is that you can afford to invest 25% of your portfolio in the extremely high risk and kind of high risk projects, or essentially projects ranging from $1 billion down or less. The rest is less risky because these are your higher market cap projects. This one is $1 billion up to about $25 billion. And this category here is $25 billion market cap plus. So you're very low risk, but of course, low reward. And pairing these together, you can begin to go, okay, what altcoins can I buy depending on how much you're willing to risk in the market? That will allow you to begin isolating the projects like I've done here. Again, wealth preservation, holding wealth, and over here being more risky, right? And so again, you can kind of have a nice mixture of the both, guarantee, and then offset the risk with these coins and offset the reward or the gains with these coins. So let me take you through an example here of how I would analyze someone's portfolio based on a real individual. We're going to call this person A. And I asked this person a series of questions in the private community, right? Number one was, how many multiples do you want to achieve? What's your cost basis, aka how much money have you invested? What is your risk tolerance? How much can you afford to lose? What is your conviction levels in each altcoin? And how much can you afford to dollar cost average? These are his 10 altcoins he currently holds right now. This is how much of the tokens he owns. This is his current entry levels, and you'll find this is a great example because this will apply to a lot of you who managed to get in the market late. As you can see by his entry levels, he managed to pretty much get in equal to, if not slightly a bit more than the current prices, okay? And then I've gone ahead and worked out his cost basis, so how much he has invested, obviously, in each coin. Here was his answers to those 5 questions. Number 1, how many multiples? So he's looking for a 10 to 12x. And first of all, I'm thinking to myself, if you're buying these projects, and I've color-coded them depending on what risk category they're currently in, I think that you don't want to shoot any more than a 15x for these kind of altcoins. And I think a 15x is on the very, very high side. So it's first of all good to see he is deciding to choose 10 to 12x immediately. Very, very good, reasonable, and realistic. My one concern here is the immediate feedback I would give if you're sort of saying to yourself, oh, I want a 10 to a 15x. I want you to actually put an exact number on how much you need to make, right? So he might, for example, he's invested $38,000 so far. All up, said and done, he's probably going to end up investing about $100,000. So you're basically saying you want to make $1 million, $1.2 million at the end of the day. But if his goals are just to buy a house for his family, he might only need $600,000. Putting an exact figure, an exact dollar amount on your goal is important, and then working back to figure out how much you can afford to invest right now, and then looking at the end goal and working out those multiples, because he might only need an 8x. And in that case, you can begin to simply just start buying a whole heap of these altcoins, no problem, no risk whatsoever. Now, again, cost basis is currently $38,000, so he has about $40K invested. His risk tolerance is 30% of the $80,000 he's looking to total put in, of course. So what this basically means, he's willing to lose $24,000. So, in, let's just say, the next 24 months, if he walks out of the market with $24,000 minus the $80,000, so about $56,000, he isn't going to want to jump off a bridge, basically, right? He's going to be able to push forward. Not ideal, but he can survive. This tells us how much of our portfolio we can max put into those riskier projects. Now, here's his conviction for each coin. Most of them are maxed out, and I would consider even an 8 out of 10 quite sizable, quite strong. This is good to see. You should never hold a coin through FUD or through real bad news based on conviction. Conviction just tells me how much research you've basically done into the project. Interestingly here, he's telling me that he can actually afford to invest $40,000, and he has stipulated immediately he wants to put this money in now, again, likely because he's well aware of the fact that the cycle might end sooner than what we all expect, which means he's going to be hit with more tax. He wants to get in now on the current situation we're in rather than hoping and possibly waiting for something that may never come. $20,000 he also has in his back pocket to invest for cash. So really, he's got a fairly, sizable amount of cash he can still hold. So for me, it makes sense to put $40K in the market. I know it sounds crazy throwing $40K in all at once, but he can afford to do it with that extra 20 grand cash he's holding in his back pocket, and he can afford to DCA 2K per month. So that's really, really good, actually. And he's looking to buy these coins extra. So all I've done here is decide, first of all, what are we going to remove? We're going to remove the coins we're doubling up on the weak narratives. Algorand is one of those, and Casper, both Web2 Layer 1 projects. Algorand I wanted to kind of keep in. The real reason why I excluded it in the end was because he has such a low amount, it wouldn't be that bad of a deal to break all of this off and sell these coins to hold more cash, and if he really wants to, consolidate Casper and Algorand into HBAR. It's the same project, hitting the same sort of narratives, but much more powerful in terms of the pumpermentals for this particular bull run. The other coin I've removed as well was Multiverse X, because he's pretty much hitting this area with Mina already, and also his NEAR protocol, right? Web3 Layer 1 projects. So in my opinion, again, I think that's going to do really well. All these projects should achieve his goals. We're just trying to consolidate his portfolio to make it easier for him to be able to make a critical decision, especially on a timely manner in the bull run, right? These things pump and dump pretty quickly. You have to be on top of it. So he's going to lose $180 from selling his Casper today. What he'll do is he'll break even with Multiverse X, and he'll make up that $180 loss with Algorand. If a portfolio like $80,000, you're worried about losing $180 on a sell like this, you really shouldn't be. It's not too big of a deal. Either way, works out fine for him, and I would actually add that into his cash position rather than putting it into HBAR or buying the coins right now because he's got $40,000 to buy altcoins with right now, that's perfectly fine. If he didn't have that 40 grand, I probably would suggest, non-financially of course, he throws that into some coin right now. On his request as well, we're adding in the coins that he wanted to add more of a position in. He didn't actually tell me how much he wanted to throw in, so I've gone ahead and put in amounts I think are reasonable for each of these, doubling down on some of the coins he already has, and then buying a lot of the new coins, right? So if we get rid of these coins, we're now down to 7. And so if we add ICP, Fetch, and GameSwift, we have a total of 10 coins, okay? So I've gone ahead and put in a certain amount for each of these. The reason why I've added in the certain amounts is to make sure we're diversified, right? For example, I've put in for Fetch $4,000, and I've also added only $1,000 for AGIX because they're both very similar coins hitting the exact same narratives in AI. And it's good to do that, by the way, because what that's going to do is just double down on the biggest narrative of the bull run. The reason why I've added more to Fetch and little to AGIX is because he already owns AGIX. And if he put $1,000 on here and $4,000 on Fetch, that's about $4,000 split even. So that's nice and what we're looking for here, right? Diversification. So really, he has about $8,000 cash in one particular focus narrative, which of course is AI. Now, I have suggested some other coins as well down here because he's investing so much damn bloody money, and he said he wants to again invest now. I think these coins are perfect. They'll allow him to hit a lot more narratives as well as be in narratives he's not already in. So Manta hits a layer 2 narrative. I've also added in Celestia here as well, which also hits a layer 2 in a different way. That availability is now worked on in addition to Near Protocol, so we're doubling down on a high narrative as well. We hit doubling down on extra on Pith, and of course $2,000 for H-bar. That's out of the $40,000 cash. I mean, he can put that extra $2,500 on H-bar. Again, that's up to him. I personally would just throw that back into cash, but I'm a little bit iffy on Mana and G-Swift. So the reason why here is I would say whatever he really wants to do, I would say we probably should get into gaming a little bit heavier, which is what we're kind of lacking in this portfolio. We have $3,000 on G-Swift, but G-Swift is a micro cap. It's like $50-60 million right now. So it isn't, ideal for us to be only in really gaming right now on a micro cap. So his Mana position, he has about, $1,400 in, but again, that's not sizable considering the size of his portfolio, okay? That is entirely up to him depending on what he wants to sort of go into. He can also maybe take away $1,000 out of H-bar, maybe $1,000 out of Mana, or maybe take that $2,500 as well as his $2,000 and find a new gaming play. I think even IMX, right, that layer 2 and gaming might be a good alternative here as well. It powers up the layer 2 narrative we're focused on as well as being a safe gaming play. What we're doing here is, again, focusing on multiple narratives in the one sort of area, right? We're trying to hit as many as we possibly can and doubling or tripling down on each of these individually. And as you'll see in a moment, I think we do a pretty good job of hitting most of these. We miss a couple of them, but it's part of the game. You can't hit everything. Now, considering all this, and I will give a breakdown here momentarily, we have about 3 slots remaining. So we have 12 coins. Now, I'm not going to say he has to fill those 3 slots. Again, you want to have as little as possible in a bull run because these projects move quickly and you need to be on top of the research. But he can afford to, over the course of the bull run, add some coins, get rid of some coins. If he wants to, I would say consider Axelar because we're missing interoperability. I mean, we do hit it with the likes of Flux, ICP, and a few others, vaguely. But if you want to really hit that nail on the head, I would think about Axelar, maybe even Moonbeam. Interestingly, though, he has a lot of money to DCA per month. And if you're in a situation where you can DCA a sizable amount, try to figure out if you can work out how much that will be over the next 6 months. I wouldn't do more than 6 months to be safe. And work that out. So in his case, $12,000. So if he injects that $12,000 over the next 6 months, considering he continues to buy altcoins that allow him to basically still achieve his 10 or 12x goal, then that can actually bring down the overall multiples you're looking at again. So if he's looking for a 12x, that might make him able to move down to a 10x safely, which is what we're trying to do. Pretty much for my situation, I was looking for a 30x because I was just thinking, okay, I'm going to have my total initial cost basis of $100,000 and I want to get $3 million to achieve my goal, but it didn't work out. Okay, I can actually afford to invest $200,000 over the next 6 months or so, right? Which means I can reduce that 30x to a 15x because all you got to do is achieve a goal in a bull run. That's all you have to focus on, guys. Don't try to be overzealous. So here is his new portfolio, and this is what I would recommend you all do for yours. So considering his requirements, right, we've made sure we haven't gone over that 30% threshold for his tolerance, so at about 18.8%. So for the targets, I've put in to reduce some on the projects he's getting into now. So reduce ICP, Fetch, and Celestia, and make up for that, of course, in the higher ranked areas. So it makes no sense to put money into low risk coins if you're looking for a 10x. Just put that into the low risk, somewhat high reward projects and get rid of that extra risk. Because if the coin 50x's, you're still going to get out of the 12x. There's no point in you playing more of a risk in this case, right? So I've used these coins strategically to offset the sort of the lateness we are in for these coins over here. I think the rest of these he'll absolutely hit his targets considering his entry levels. We've also put an extra multiple over here for Mina, but again, making up for these missing multiples with these coins down here. So all in all, he'll have, after he executes this, about $23,000 cash. So he's well and truly within that 5 to 20% cash threshold I would tell you guys to think about. And again, he can, add on an extra $12,000 to that pot of cash over the next 6 months. So really, I would recommend him to think about, can you move that from a 12x to a 10x, maybe even to a 9 or an 8x, just to make it easier for you to achieve these targets. Overall, Ace hitting 16 narratives with 12 coins. If he adds XLR, that'll be about 13 coins and possibly moving up to about 18 narratives. So 10x average, that is an absolute win. He is going to find his portfolio moves up in a synchronous manner. And again, I think that that's just simply reducing multiple areas of not just risk, all right, being diverse in the different sort of risk areas, also choosing different altcoins and many different narratives. Thank you all so much for watching this entire video. I hope you have enjoyed. And please, just even if it takes you a couple hours on the weekend, if you have to tell the guys or your girlfriends to just have drinks without you for one weekend, I'd recommend doing that this weekend, if any at all.